What's up, 49er faithful? So today we're going to be talking about some free agents I think the 49ers really should consider signing. These are kind of more of the cheaper options that they can go after. I'm really not sure if they're going to be able to get some of these big names, especially like a Brian Burns, who's wanting 60 plus million. I think there's a few guys out there that are you know, good players haven't been as productive the last few years or are just going to be overall, cheaper for the 49ers. And we're mostly going to be talking about the defense in this video. I just think that offensive line wise, there are a whole lot of free agents out there that I think I would like the 49ers especially to go out and get. I think that they might just have to end up doing that really through the draft. Um, and they have a lot of free agents on the defensive line right now. They only have 6 guys on the defensive line under contract. A lot of young guys, you know, for especially when talking about the depth. What is opposite Nick Bosa going to look like? 'Cause Cleveland Farrell's a free agent. You have Drake Jackson coming off of surgery. How much are they going to now put pressure on him? Last year he was supposed to be the guy, but gets hurt, struggles, throughout the year at times. So, with this Super Bowl window, I feel like starting to kind of close a little bit, especially possibly after this year. I think they need to go maybe get a little bit of a bigger name, and then can have Drake Jackson as one of the depth pieces, and they can still add on to that defensive line. I think so. The first guy I have is Cowboys free agent defensive end Dorance Armstrong, former fourth round pick of the Dallas Cowboys back in 2018. Had 7.5 sacks this year's 20 total tackles. I think he's going to be a cheaper option um, when it comes to, being able to get him now. Back-to-back years have been his best years. In 2022, he had 8.5 sacks, which is his career high. He has been very healthy for the most part. Played in 17 games back-to-back seasons. So I think this could be a really good pickup for the San Francisco 49ers. A little bit of a cheaper option. I think a guy that shows a lot of good pass rushing moves. I think something that the 49ers are going to want. Now, we don't completely know the scheme, but I'm just going to say that it's going to be pretty similar to what the 49ers have had in Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, because that's what it seems like Kyle Shanahan really wants. He doesn't want things to be changed, and I think that's kind of what the issue was with Steve Wilkes, is trying to micromanage him and then also him changing the scheme, especially with the defensive line just not being as dominant. The run defense really, taking a step down. So I think a guy like Armstrong would be a good fit for the 49ers. Another guy is Jets edge rusher Bryce Huff. This guy's pretty young. And I think that the 49ers definitely should go after him. 25 years old. Um, Gonna be cheaper than a guy like Brian Burns for sure. After him, he's had pretty good, I'd say, season. The past few years with the New York Jets. Let me pull up his stats real quick. So yeah, he's had 10 sacks in this last season with the New York Jets, 3.5 before. Has been on the Jets for 4 years. He's been in the league for 4 years. Came out of Memphis. Um, Undrafted guy, looks like. Yeah, in 2020 by the New York Jets. So guy that's all of a sudden kind of gone above the scenes and being able to really starting to produce. I think that this is a good pick for the 49ers because, again, he's played in that Robert Saleh kind of scheme. And if the scheme is going to be, pretty much very similar. I think that Bryce Huff could really flourish in this 49ers system and, you know, go into a Super Bowl contender. That can help some of these guys want, to get unleashed even more again. Because he's young, I think there's a lot of, growing that he is able to do. Um, Still, so I think that the 49ers, this is a guy I'd absolutely love if the 49ers can go get. He's going to be on the cheaper side, I believe. And then the next guy is Lions free agent uh, Romeo Okworo. Romeo Okworo is a also looks like undrafted um, guy up in 2016 back with the New York Giants, but again has been playing with the Lions for the past few years. Only spent 2 years with the Giants, and you know in 2018 he had 7.5 sacks, and then in 2020 he's had 10 sacks, and then after that, just hasn't really been able to, I guess, stay very healthy. Hasn't really played too many games, but then finally was healthy in 2023. I think the Niners should take a shot on this guy. Um, yes, he's been hurt the past few years, but I think because he's played at least in 16 games, this past season, I really think this is a guy that would be really good for the 49ers. Um, Maybe even just as a rotational guy. Um, I think that this would be an outstanding pickup, I think, for the 49ers if they are able to get a guy like him. If they, aren't able to get some of these other guys. Now, this guy is going to be an interesting name, I think. Um, Marcus Davenport. He was a guy I also wanted actually last offseason. Hasn't really been able to produce as much. 2021, he had 9 sacks, which was his career. I think that, because he hasn't been able to produce, the Niners like to take some of these guys that haven't been able to do as well the past few years, and then, be able to kind of turn them into a machine, get them, going. He's a former first round pick too from UTSA, so I think if they can get him, especially as a rotational guy, I think that'd be good. Now, I do think they'd have to go out and get one of these other guys that I've mentioned, like a Bryce Huff. I think would be the best then, possibly for that position. So I think the 49ers definitely should spend big in free agency, at the defensive line position. I feel like that's very realistic. John Lynch, Kasha, and they both love to just have to defensive line. Games won in the trenches. They want to make sure that their defensive line is dominant, and I think they're going to look for another edge rusher this off season. Now, another guy on the defensive side is cornerback Kenny Moore the second, undrafted by the Patriots in 2017, 28 years of age, been with the Colts since 2019. Um, Really a guy that I think actually quite underrated in my opinion, and because the 49ers, ended up especially releasing Isaiah Oliver. Now I think the 49ers still could use a slot cornerback. I feel like I think Ambry could be a depth guy still, and then DeAndre Lenore great on the outside. I think he could be an All Pro really next year. And I think Kenny Moore would just be an outstanding corner. He's 5'9", 190. Um, he looks a little bit bigger, but he definitely has, I'd say, the speed. I think Isaiah Oliver was just too slow. Just didn't have that speed for a slot corner. Wasn't able to, you know, keep up with some of these guys. And so I think a guy like Kenny Moore would fit really, really well with this team. He's 28 years of age, 7 years of experience in the league. Stays relatively healthy. Um, had 3 interceptions this last season, 2023. Career highs 4 interceptions. I mean, and he's able to return those interceptions too. I just think, man, if the Niners can go out and get Kenny Moore, I think that secondary all of a sudden is looking a lot better, especially with the starting group. And then I think, you could go draft a guy, or maybe you sign kind of one of these lower end corners aside from Kenny Moore, along with Kenny Moore, just for some depth, you know, because you're definitely going to need it. That they have a guy like Dorelluder Jr. How are they feeling about him? Could he finally take a step? He was mostly hurt this season, and I think he would have been a redshirt guy even if he was healthy. So, what is the plan with him? How do the 49ers feel about Dorelluder Jr.? And what else can they possibly do in free agency, I think, to better that, cornerback spot? Could they be going for maybe a safety too? Um, that they feel could be a good pickup. I just don't know if there's too many guys out there. I feel like a lot of these guys are going to be starting, you know, safeties for a lot of these teams. Um, that I'm seeing from this free agency list. I'm not really sure if there's. We'll see. I mean, mm, I feel like it would be better if they could, you know, go get a guy. I don't know if like a guy like maybe Taylor Rapp, possibly the former Ram and Buffalo Bill. Could they maybe go get him? He's still young. They're gonna need depth. Right now, safety wise, they have Talanoa Hufanga, who is coming off an ACL injury, and then you have Jair Brown, who showed some really big promise. When having to step in with Tashawn Gibson, I think Tashawn Gibson's probably going to retire. He slowed down. You can tell, just doesn't have that burst as much anymore. He even has said with Hufanga, kind of felt like he was feeling younger the year before, and then obviously, like I said, Hufanga got hurt this year, unfortunately, in 2023. So I think, the 49ers definitely are still going to have to go add, you know, a safety out there. Usually they say they'd want to have four safeties. Maybe they don't even go sign someone, and maybe they give Taylor Hawkins a shot, because I thought Taylor Hawkins, has showed some flashes, right? He played in the Rams game. I think he showed some flashes even in that game in week 18. So, how do they feel about him? I think he's a guy that could possibly become kind of one of those key undrafted depth guys that the 49ers have. So I wouldn't mind that either. Maybe they just don't even need to go sign a safety. And again, maybe they can just, end up going with Taylor Hawkins, which I think would be pretty awesome. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section down below, and thoughts about these free agents. Any free agents you think that the 49ers should go after that I didn't name. Make sure to like the video for me, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn that notification bell on so you don't miss a single thing about the San Francisco 49ers, as we will be posting any breaking news here. So peace out, and let's go 49ers.